President Bola Tinubu visited Benue State today to assess the aftermath of the recent Yelewata attacks, which over 200 persons lost their lives. Now, the president arrived at the Nigerian Air Force Base in Makurdi around 12:58 p.m. and immediately visited victims of the attack at the Benue State University Teaching Hospital. He consoled with those injured and expressed sympathy for the affected families. He held a town hall meeting with stakeholders at the Benue State Government House discussing ways to restore peace and security in the state. Now take a listen.
To the people of Benue, I just want to appeal to you. It's a very critical time. The governor needs your help. And let's get a committee of non-indigenous, incorporate, and governor of Nasarawa is here too, and governor of Benue is here. Let's create that synergy for peace, development, and prosperity. We are here to govern, not to bury. We are here to raise families, not to lose them. Let us please find a way to form a committee of elders here. That committee to comprise those who had governed this state before, including Atompera, to be the committee to really find a permanent accommodation. I'm glad the Minister for Livestock is here. Thank you. We are going to establish a ranch. Give me land, Governor. Me. Land here to establish a ranch. And we share the profits after you retire. We can shake off the backwardness. Yes, we can.
Meanwhile, the paramount ruler of the Tiv Nation, Tor Tiv V, His Royal Majesty James Ayatse, has refuted claims that the ongoing killings in Benue State as a result of farmer herders' clashes. He described such narratives as blatant misinformation that misinterprets the true nature of the crisis. Speaking today during a meeting between the president and key stakeholders in Benue State, the paramount ruler expressed deep concern over how this mischaracterisation has influenced national discourse and policy direction. Take a listen.
We do have grave concern about the misinformation and misrepresentation of the security crisis in Benue State. Your Excellencies, it is not herder farmers clashes, it's not communal clashes, it's not repressor attacks or skirmishes. It is this misinformation that has led to suggestions such as remain tolerant, negotiate for peace, learn to live with your neighbors. What we are dealing with here in Benue is a calculated, well-planned, full-scale genocidal invasion and land-grabbing campaign by herder terrorists and bandits, which has been on for decades and is worsening every year. Wrong diagnosis will always lead to wrong treatment. So we are dealing with something far more sinister than we think about. It's not learning to live with your neighbors. It is dealing with a war. The second apprehension, Your Excellency, we have is the politicization of the crisis. Politicians in the states are busy politicizing the crisis, passing blames instead of joining hands to address the crisis. We hear there are some politicians who will even prefer that the crisis should worsen so that it will be a basis for declaration of a state of emergency in Benue State. Your Excellency, this is unfortunate, and any politicians that prays for more people to die for such a project is against the wishes of the people of Benue State.
This will form the bulk of our conversation this evening. Now, to discuss this, I'm joined by Bolaji Adeniji, is the convener Forum for Governance, Leadership and Values. Of course, he joins me in the studio. I also have Dennis Makurdi, is a security expert, joining virtually from the United States. I have Dr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, is the Commissioner of Police retired and also Provost of the Police Public Relations School. He joins virtually from Abuja. Abzari Yusuf, the former National Coordinator of Middle Belt Patriots. He also joins virtually. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining. But before we get into the crux of the conversation this evening, let's go on a quick break. We'll hit the ground running. Once we return, stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ on News Central Television. And let's get into the crux of the conversation right now. Bolaji, thank you for joining. Let me start first with your reaction to Mr. President's, speech or visit to Benue State. Permit me to highlight the crux of the many things Mr. President did say, in his address to the people of Benue. He talked about the peace committee formation in the state, comprising of former governors, state eldersmen, serving governors, rulers, non-rulers, indigenes, non-indigenes, to sort of mediate and form that particular committee. He also talked about the establishment of ranch. He also highlighted on economic prosperity and also security measures being put in place, and also emphasized reconciliation amongst the bulk of other issues. So my question to you, Bolaji, I mean, from the many things Mr. President has said, how did this speech hit you? Do you think that Mr. President actually hit the bullseye here?
Well, thank you once again for having me. I will start off by saying finally, because at the outset of the crisis, a lot of people said that Mr. President should have been one of the first responders, and after a lot of back and forth, he consented eventually 2 days ago to be in Benue. He came in today, and he said quite a few things. But what struck me the most in all the things he said is the fact that the people should look into the details, the fine details of the content, of our national anthem, and let that define the purpose of our coexistence, in terms of the fact that we may differ in tongues, we may differ in tribe, but we must sustain that unity. Because when you look at the prognosis of this crisis, which has been long coming, it didn't start today. We have always seen that happen in parts of the Middle Belt, the Plateau, and the Benue. Within the last 18 months, to almost 24 months, over 1,000 people were killed in various installments of this type of clashes. And they have always said it's between the herders and, of course, the locals, the farmers. So it's about people who want their animals to feed, and then farmers who are preserving their own territory, and then it degenerates to crisis, lives are lost, people then do reprisals, and then we have that cycle over and over again. And so, if that is indeed the prognosis, what Mr. President said, amongst other things, in terms of the people living together, existing together, whether you are a farmer located within Benue, or you are a header who is moving across that environment, or even staying put there, that we must just understand that we are one people, and there should be no reason to have this type of things. And so I think that is the most important thing amongst other things. The other things are the usual rhetoric that you would expect, forming of committees, that is been long coming. Every time things like this happen, the security agencies, the locals, the stakeholders, they are all enjoy to come together to look at what are the issues, the remote and causes of such issues, and then prevent them from going forward. Those are regular rhetorics, actually.
Okay, let me bring Dennis Makurdi into the conversation. Dennis joins from the United States, actually. Dennis, it's great to have you, as always. I mean, Mr. President did visit Benue today, and of course, reactions have continued to trail in. But for you, Dennis, I mean, of all the bulk of things he said, which would you say for you hit you the most? Did Mr. President touch the core of what the people of Benue, the residents of Benue, did want to hear?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. You know, the presence of the president there is very commendable. At least he was there physically, but I expected him to address certain issues which he didn't address, because we've gone beyond this reconciliation, create a livestock ministry for cattle and all the rest. You heard the Tor Tiv when he spoke, and of course these are first-hand witnesses of what is going on there. And then of course the problem really is the header farmers problem going on, which is being expanded by terrorists joining, and then hitting the people that are living there. Now we have about 21 IDP camps in Benue, and why are we having IDP camps? Because the people have been dislodged from where they are living, and they are now living in IDP camps. Now, who is occupying the place where they are living? These are pertinent questions. I hope the president will even take a tour, to go around and see for himself, and we really have to, because people have suffered greatly. People have suffered greatly, and what bothers me a lot is that there is nobody arrested, nobody prosecuted, and then of course the impunity is there. We'll kill, or on both sides, we'll kill, nothing will happen. I think government have to step in there and show that no, you cannot waste the lives of Nigerians just by killing whenever you feel like doing so. So I feel I don't know if the president have left, but I feel that he should have visited those areas and see what is actually happening. And then, of course, ask the security agents, where are those people that perpetrated this? They cannot disappear. They are not ghosts. How many arrests have been made? Because we need to stop this. It is continuing over the years because there is no consequences.
All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. I mean, the president actually did say that the reason why he couldn't go to Yelewata is because of, the weather condition, rainfall, the flooding, and also bad roads. But it sort of gave what I call it, impression that is pretty much abreast. But we'll definitely dig more into these issues. Once we return from this break, do stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ on News Central Television, and of course we are looking at the aftermath of the Benue attacks, the killings, very unfortunate that happened, and the visit of Mr. President to the state, and of course some of the resolutions and discussions that were had. Let me bring this conversation to you. That is Zari Yusuf. Zari Yusuf is a former national coordinator of the Middle Belt Patriots. I mean, Mr. President, his speech today, of course, has continued to elicit reactions. But one thing he did emphasize in that speech is for a need for reconciliation. With what we are seeing on ground, I mean, you are from the Middle Belt. You are from that region. Do you think that what is on ground can be resolved by reconciliation alone? Yusuf, the question is for you.
The question of, as the President mentioned, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
The issue of reconciliation is quite unfortunate for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to find his way to Benue, to find his way to a place where there is enough evidence, more than enough, to prove a clear case of genocide, and then you begin to talk about reconciliation. When you bring up the idea of reconciliation, we are simply going to ask, who are we reconciling with who? The Middle Belt, this manner of attacks, when I say this manner, I'm talking about a military style of attack on harmless people, innocent people. The initial assumption was that the emergence of this president from a southern origin, regardless of the circumstance of his emergence, would have simply meant whatever calls were made to the previous administration and was ignored because of the ethnic and religious sentiments or this bond between the man and the perpetrators of this criminality. We were thinking he was going to adhere to it. During the last 8 years of Buhari's regime, during the 2 tenures of Buhari's regime, calls were made to proscribe Mieti Allah particularly, for the singular fact that there have been deadly attacks that we have taken responsibility for. For over a decade, all of the mass graves scattered in the Middle Belt are filled with peoples of the Middle Belt, Christian populations, farmers, women, children, people who do not have arms, people that the slightest ideation of them owning machetes, bows, and arrows, the military goes there and they comb those communities and they dispossess them of those arms. Yet there is another group that comes in, massacres people, kill, and leave without a single one of them brought to book or eliminated. So when you speak about reconciliation, I am thinking the president is deliberately avoiding what is happening. You have been told by the Tor Tiv it is a genocide. Exactly the reason why this government or the APC regime is refusing to admit the fact that there is a genocide waged against the people of the Middle Belt. We still do not understand why that is.
Okay.
There are over 20 IDP camps in Benue. All of them are populated by the indigenes. And it's unfortunate for him to come up with that. It's a complete avoidance of the issue on ground, and that is quite unfortunate.
All right, Yusuf, I definitely would love to stay with you on this conversation, but it appears we're having a bit of difficulty trying to hear you. I'm still going to come back to you, Yusuf, but let me take this conversation to Dr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, who is a Commissioner of Police retired and Provost with the Police Public Relations School in Abuja. I would take it back to some of the things that the Tor Tiv, that the traditional ruler, did say in his address. He said that what is happening in Benue State appears to be a well-planned, sinister, genocidal agenda. That is huge. I would like you to address this from a security standpoint, sir. What exactly is going on here? He said it's deeper than what it goes beyond reconciliation or roundtable talks, and that there is more to it. I mean, from a security standpoint, how grave is this situation?
Thank you very much. one of my colleagues there did mention that the killings in the Middle Belt, Benue in particular, did not start yesterday, not last week, not 2 weeks ago. They've been ongoing for long. And so the place, instead of being a food basket, has become a mass grave due to atrocious crimes, killings of Nigerians. You reconcile with people you know. The victims we know. The devastated areas we know. Who are the perpetrators? And that is the role of government to identify those who are killing Nigerians. And we have given the president mandate to rule over this country. He ought to know who are killing fellow Nigerians every day in their hundreds. Who are those making Nigerians to leave their normal place of abode to IDP camps in Nigeria in the 21st century? We need to identify the perpetrators, those who are benefiting from it, and bring them to book, not by saying it, but by seeing them in the jailhouses. There's no doubt a large number of people have been killed in the Benue in the last few weeks, last few months. And it is not sufficient for the president to go to Benue and not visit the scene of crime. He will not feel the pains of the people. His aides will not give him may not give him the proper details about the devastation, the genocide that the Tor Tiv mentioned. The Tor Tiv is very much on ground. He has seen what people have gone through. He has seen the arson, the carnage, the decapitation, and how small children were butchered. He has seen it, and I'm sure he's not sleeping. It's important for our president to feel what people are feeling so I can make proper policy direction. So I believe that what has happened is cosmetic, starting from the tone of the visit. From what I read, the governor made it to become ceremonial. No. You don't go on condolence with Abada. You don't go on condolence like they did in Dapchi. And former President Buhari, he went to Dapchi, they rolled out red carpet for him to go and see scene of crime. We are playing with lives of Nigerians. The meeting should not be at the government house in Benue, in Makurdi. It should be at the scene of crime so that he'll see dead bodies, he will smell dead bodies and know that people are going down. So that whatever he's doing will properly directed at finding solution. Right now it will be cosmetic. Setting up committees will not take us anywhere because there are so many committees set previously whose results were not implemented. This is another one, and money will be spent on these committees. That issue of ranking has been spoken about several times. It is a tall order. But we need to know those who are killing Nigerians, bring them to book, and let us stop the carnage. That should be the focus of the president.
I mean, talking about those, knowing those who are killing Nigerians, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Dennis Massacre, on this one. We all agree that this issue, this isn't the first time. It's been reoccurring over and over and over again. And there have been attempts to sort of find a lasting solution to this. In terms of knowing the perpetrators, even as much as, yes, maybe they might be difficult to get, for those that have witnessed these crimes, I mean, they largely can say or have an idea who those perpetrators are. What do you think is missing in terms of the security architecture here? And I'm coming from a security standpoint. And that is to you, Dr. Makurdi. What is missing here in terms of the security architecture? Is it that the boots on ground are not sufficient? There is no political willpower? The men are not better skilled? Or do we not just have the technological know-how to address this?
Number one, I'm not a doctor. Simple Mr. Amakri. The doctor is Ojuku, is there. So, anyway.
That's fine, sir.
You see,
noted.
It is not a matter of Yeah, the security architecture we're talking about. Now, when you look at it, what is in that security architecture? We've talked about bringing law enforcement to the grassroots, and we've not done that. State police had been hanging in the in the National Assembly for all these weeks. Nobody's talking about it. Now that we have a problem, I'm very sure they might even bring it out, talk about it, then go on vacation. You know, these are problems of national importance and should be addressed quickly. What do we need? We need law enforcement at the bottom. Benue State has what they call the community volunteer group, you know, and these people are supposed to be like Amotekun that, you know, are supposed to work with security agencies, you know, by collecting information and giving out. So what do we have here? Is it an intelligence failure whereby what is happening was not known until they come around and kill people? Oh, my colleagues there have said it, this thing has been happening, and then we have to stop it. Because if we don't stop it, then we're not going to head anywhere. This has happened. The Inspector General of Police have deployed a lot of policemen into the place. And then, of course, we want those people to be permanent. Because if we deploy them there 2-3 weeks, then another thing happens somewhere, maybe in River State, and then you move them down there, and the place becomes empty again. So there are measures, short-term and long-term measures that are supposed to be taken, you know, in the security architecture, you know, that will be permanent in dealing with this problem.
Right.
And this is not only for Benue State, it's for across the country.
All right, Mr. Makurdi, of course, the correction there noted. Thank you so much. We'll go on a quick break. When we definitely return, we'll be looking at another angle to this conversation, taking a cue from what the Tor Tiv said, and that is the politicization of the crisis. I mean, how much of substance, you know, is here or is there in this particular statement? Stay with us, we'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ on News Central Television, and we are, of course, discussing the aftermath of the Benue killings. A very unfortunate situation, and the visit of Mr. President to the state. Let me bring this conversation down back to the studio, where I have Bolaji Adeniji. He's the convener of Forum for Governance, Leadership and Values. Thank you for staying with me. Bolaji, the Tor Tiv, that's the traditional ruler, paramount ruler, actually also said in his speech that an angle to this crisis has to do with the politicization of it by some politicians who even want it to fester so that a state of emergency might be declared in the state. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, I make very little substance of that. I think we have more important things to look at, and I'll get there in a short while. Right from when we had the crisis of Chibok during the Jonathan era, when you call how it was politicized, some feel that Mr. President wasn't coming forth with the truth, while the government was managing the information till it blew out of proportion. And so since then on, constantly, when we see these things happen, we always find people on different sides of the divide, whether you are for government or against government, you know, weaponizing this unfortunate situation to create narratives that suit their personal agenda. And so if we see that happen in Benue, it's just a consistent happening that we have seen, where people who feel that this suits their narrative play it up, and then we get to hear things like the governor is not attuned to what's happening, it's not on ground, it's been nonchalant, and therefore Mr. President should step in, probably do a state of emergency or the other. So that is taken, that is given, we know that it happens. And so if the Tor Tiv Ben Ayatse says that, it's correct to the extent that people weaponize such situation to suit their narrative. But it's unfortunate that we have a situation where people lose their lives in that number, and then people play politics with it. But he said something more fundamental. He said two things, actually. The first one being politicization. The second one being that there's a misdiagnosis of this crisis, that it is not an elders-farmers clash. We are having a genocide situation where people come into a community and wipe out a whopping 200 persons or more in one fell swoop. That is no longer elders, because we are looking at a situation whereby how many people are these elders to have the capacity and the manpower to move into a community and cause such fatality in that number. That is no more about people moving cows and then protecting the cows and then fighting a few people on land over land and grazing environment spaces. No, this is a calculated attempt. It was planned, meticulously executed. And so it called the attention of Mr. President that what we are dealing with is not what we are diagnosing. And that calls to question and brings it back to our security people, that we need to now disaggregate criminality in Nigeria and understand that what we are dealing with in Northeast is not what we are dealing with in the Middle Belt.
Based on what Mr. President did say and what the Tor Tiv did say, would you assert that maybe Mr. President on this matter has been ill-advised?
Well, I think if you look at the body language of Mr. President, he does not seem to have a proper briefing by maybe Ribadu or Musa and his team on ground as to the existential realities before he came in to Benue. And so that's why his rhetoric was generic. What Mr. President said today will fit into, if anything happens in Plateau tomorrow, his platitudes telling people to work together.
It feels like a template.
Yeah, that our unity is sacrosanct. We must work together. Mr. Governor, stay beyond your beats, and that is generic. And telling the NSA, the NIA, DG, the DSS, DG, for all of them to ramp up their effort and ensure that peace returns. These are generic things. But the charge must get back to Ribadu and his team in terms of deepening intelligence. You see, every time people talk about intelligence, and I ask them, what is intelligence? Intelligence is nothing than doing preemptive security. Look at what are the issues in this. What is happening in Northeast is different from what is happening in Plateau State and Benue State. In Plateau and Benue, it's pure genocide. People are not talking about terrorism there. It's genocide. People coming in to wipe out Nigerians and then moving out. But in the Northeast, we are saying after terrorism, there is an asymmetrical battle. And then commercialization of criminality, whereby we have kidnapping and banditry, and people are making hundreds of millions every week from that. And so the security agencies need to sit down and disaggregate it. What is the issues around here? Why do we have the DSS? It's not to wear suit and be doing fancy things around executive leaders across the country. Get into these communities, wear their clothes, go into the markets, go into the community, live there, hear the language, and then get your notes and begin to dot the lines to know where these things are coming from. You get a line, you get something. But we are not seeing that happening.
Okay, maybe I should let's see if we can hear Yusuf now. Yusuf, I mean, we're having a bit of difficulty earlier trying to make sense of what you were saying. But Yusuf, will we say that, in resolving the crisis in Benue State has been as a result of maybe lack of proper intel or briefing, or just, not having that sufficient political willpower? And that comes to maybe politicization of the whole thing.
I hope I'm audible now. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
All right. I do not think it's a failure. Like I said, I think there is a deliberate policy. It's something that is characteristic of the ruling party. Like I said, before the coming of this to the previous administration, and they were ignored. You hardly whisper the word genocide, and you will find experts trying to coach you on how not to use the word genocide. People do not, it looks as if it's a deliberate attempt by the government to not allow the world to understand that this is a genocide. A typical example is this. You go to a community, 200 people, You lock people up in a room, you burn them to ashes. How far is that community from the nearest military checkpoint? Nobody shows up. And these people that carried out this attack leave. Not one of them arrested, not one of them is being chased. And then the people come out to protest, and you can deploy helicopters, you can deploy armored tanks, you can discharge bullets, discharge tear gas to scatter them. So it does look like it's almost a state policy or the ruling party's policy to suppress the narrative. The narrative itself is something that I feel, as somebody is being deliberately suppressed. Somebody does not want the world to know that there is a genocide, especially with the religious dimension of it. So it is not a failure of intelligence. I do not believe it's a failure of intelligence, because if it was, you can't be talking about 200 people, 100 people, 87 people, 300 people, raping of women, sacking of communities, and still, the leadership is, especially with the manner in which our security forces deal with the victims each time they protest against it.
All right.
Now, somebody was talking about the difference between what's happening in the Northeast and, the Middle Belt. Yeah. Sorry?
Yusuf, if you can hear me, your line is still not absolutely clear, but I think we got a bulk of what you were trying to say. I'll come back to you shortly. But quickly, before we go on break, let me bring in Dr. Emmanuel Ojukwu into the conversation. Now, Dr. Emmanuel, let's, of course, look at the body language and the reaction so far of the governor of the state, Governor Ayatse. Does he appear to be on top of the situation?
Well, I watched the governor speak 2 days ago. He didn't give me the impression of somebody who is mourning or who lost his constituents. It was flat and pedestrian, in my estimation. If I lose 100 souls in my village, we will shut down the village and fly flags at half-mast. We will not bring up school children whose relatives are dead, unaccounted for, to line the streets, as if we are doing a jamboree for a president who is coming to witness failure of administration. I don't think that governor has performed very well. The former governor of Tom was always crying about this issue. It was crying about the neglect of Benue State and the attempt by a certain group to take over their land. This one isn't crying that way. I'm not satisfied with his conduct, his attitude as regards what is happening in the state. Unfortunately, I'm not from Benue State. I don't know what to do in the next election.
All right, at this point, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll be looking forward as to what we consider a lasting solution to this problem. Do stay with us, we'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ. Well, before, of course, we drop the curtains, I'll be bringing you on, Mr. Dennis Makurdi, your final thoughts on this matter and what you feel could be a lasting solution. In 30 seconds, we know that some security chiefs are touting that maybe on a larger scale right now, Nigeria should be fenced such that, there's some sort of border control as to who comes in, into the country as regards these terrorists. So looking at it from a broader perspective, issues we are seeing in Benue, in Plateau State, what do you, from a security standpoint, sir, consider a lasting solution? 30 seconds. I think you're muted, sir.
Sorry. I cannot.
You're good to go now.
Somewhere we have to fence the country. Trump tried it, and of course he has given up that idea of fencing the borders. All we have to do is to use technology in monitoring our borders, and it's important because right now the foreigners coming in have been causing problem for us. But like I said earlier, there are two things we can do. In the short term, we can deploy more security people down there, and then of course use the local community volunteer guards to be more effective, and then of course to get them to gather enough information for the security agencies. And then when that information is being processed, we can get solid intelligence to give to the politicians that are into this. Now, long term, there should be dialogue. You know, there should be dialogue. All areas of people that are involved should come and talk. If we have foreigners, then it is not a matter of dialogue because we have to deal with them. That's invasion. People are coming into our country and killing Nigerians and going away. We cannot dialogue with people like that. We cannot dialogue with terrorists. And then, of course, those communities that are there, I think we should promote peace and understanding between them. And then, of course, help them to defend themselves. If we have to arm them, so be it, you know, but we should control that arming. Not everybody go and buy a gun and start shooting at people. No, they should get the arms, train them to use it, and then, of course, let them go ahead and report to a government agency. They cannot operate on their own. Vigilantes cannot operate on their own. Then, finally, we should get security reforms. I still believe that getting police, state police, I think is very, very key. And then we don't have to even depend on the military because military is for external aggression, police is for internal security.
All right, sir.
And then, of course, what's the difference between a police and a soldier? It's the kind of, you know, training they get. So we train the police to take care of internal security.
All right, Bolaji, 30 seconds. Your take on this matter, what you consider the way forward.
Well,
yes, Bolaji, I'm with you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think two things for brevity of time. Sincerity of intelligence in terms of what is happening on the ground combined with the appropriate boots on the ground, because a lot of things are happening. People are volunteering to talk. They can see things, but we have seen whereby our security agencies have not been too forthright with intelligence more often than not. And so they must be sincere and, you know, create the right architecture for intelligence and then act upon it. The second one, which I've always emphasized, and Mr. Makurdi said it, which is wrapping up in technology. Look at what is happening between Iran and Israel. Trump was saying the other day that, look, we know where Ayatollah is. People sit down somewhere and they can tell this is what is happening on ground somewhere else. They have drones. We have all forms of technology that you can use to see a big hemisphere. What is coming? Who are these people moving? What is this movement pattern? So if are we so incapable of deploying technology to help our borders, to help subnational borders and the general borders, to the extent that we are now apparently helpless. So I think at this point, we can no longer overemphasize the importance of technology in security and, of course, being honest with intelligence.
All right. So, just quickly also, because we are really racing for time, Dr. Ojukwu, your final thoughts on this?
We need to stop politicizing security. The government should not close its eye to some areas and open the eyes elsewhere. Every Nigerian life matters, and it is incumbent on the government of today to find out those who are killing Nigerians and bring them to book. If they are coming through the borders, we have the money. Let's all have the political will to police our borders effectively using technology. And when we find something untoward, deal with it appropriately without minding whose ox is God. Let us value lives, and then we can make progress.
All right. Yusuf, your take.
I think, first of all, the president must hearken the calls of the Middle Belt and other peace-loving Nigerians. You must proscribe Miyetti Allah as a group, because when they speak about reconciliation after a genocide, they are the ones that always show up. So you must proscribe that group. Secondly, there must be a ban on open grazing everywhere. Have cows, that's a private business. People who run poultry farms, people who do fisheries, they don't rape women, they don't kill people in hundreds, they don't burn children, they don't annihilate communities. They run their businesses privately. So whoever wants to rear cattle, there must be a ban nationally on open grazing, and then you could run it as a private business. And then communities must be armed to defend themselves, because we can no longer trust the security structure in the country. And I think the failure there comes not from security failure or lack of intelligence or whatsoever. It does look more like a case of complicity, where you are silent, are weak when people are being killed, but the very moment they want to protest against the killing, you become very active and you begin to make very brutal force against them. When these steps are taken, primarily proscription of Miyetti Allah, banning of open grazing, arming of communities to defend themselves, because this is it's people that are facing annihilation. So it's a right for them to defend themselves. And I think the government must not use, if you can't use the security forces of Nigeria to defend innocent life, then don't use them to kill people who are trying to defend themselves. As simple as that.
All right, thank you so much. Of course, I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Bolaji Adeniji, the convener of the Forum for Governance, Leadership and Values, my guest in the studio. Dennis Makurdi, security expert, joining from the U.S. Thank you so much, sir. And also Dr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, Commissioner of Police, retired, and Provost of the Police Public Relations School in Abuja. Thank you. And Zari Yusuf, former National Coordinator, Middle Belt Patriots. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time. All right, before I go, let me close with a tweet that I, stumbled on by Atom Lim, making reference to today. He said it was raining in Yelewata the night the intruder struck. No amount of rain could deter them from their mission. They set fire in the rain, watched them burn as they screamed out God's name. Today, it was raining in Yelewata. Someone walked up to His Excellency and said, "Sir, it's raining in Yelewata. Let's turn back." And His Excellency turned back. This tweet was actually making reference to the fact that Mr. President did say he did not visit Yelewata because of the weather condition and bad roads, a list of other excuses. But again, this is a call to Mr. President that this is not time to sleep. I keep saying on this program, people did not elect leaders for excuses. They elected you for results. Unfortunately, a bulk of Mr. President's speech today was talking about political enemies and the fact that he is seriously hated or abused. Mr. President, you might need to brace up, because right now, for a leader, your core mandate is security of lives and property and the economy. It's like being in the university and failing a 3-unit course. That is what is happening. In this case, it's a 6-unit course, and you are gradually sliding to an F, sir. That's the reality, and that's what Nigerians are trying to tell you. Please wake up and sit up. In Yoruba Palace, they'll say, "Baba Esomi." Good night.